That's funny.
Brews and Banter Podcast. Banter Podcast. Brews and Banter Podcast. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Brews and Banter Podcast. I'm your host, Rob G. And with me, as always, is the Legendary Brew Crew. What up, fellas?
I got water, I got, juice or whatever. He's like, y'all need twin legs? Matter of fact, I do.
To everybody is,
Does Delaware have an actual culture?
this is the podcast that we talk about beer, but we also talk about a lot of things that's happening in the world. Politics, movies, anything really that comes to our mind while we're here sampling these brews. Grab a drink and pull up a chair.
Hi.
Hello.
Activate. Only smoking gas and a nigga call it element. Only riding foreign engines, nigga.
Welcome back, Ray Strummer. Ray
Strummer as a group is back. That's Ray Strummer as a group.
Yeah, there's new songs. They new songs.
Wow.
Is it too?
They're back. They took a little
Like
time
Ray
off.
Strummer.
Hey, they got back together.
That's good.
What up? Welcome to Bruising Banter Podcast, where the topic is the rocking and the brew. We're happy to fuel. And I'm your host, Rob G. And with me, as always, the Legendary Brew Crew. What's going on, fella?
What up?
Hey guys, how y'all doing out there?
What up?
This is episode 202 of Bruising Banter Podcast. It just feels funny to say 200. It doesn't roll off the tongue like
sheesh.
I understand that. That makes perfect sense. It's a lot of freaking episodes.
Yeah. But if this is your first time joining us, welcome aboard the train.
Welcome aboard the train.
Choo-choo.
Absolutely. If you've been with
Come
us
on and ride
day
that
one,
train.
you've been with some day one. We appreciate it. Thank you for
Welcome
being
back.
here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
If you've been here since day one, we appreciate you.
Yeah. And even if you're going back to the catalog and listening to them from start to finish just to catch up.
If you're doing that, listen, text us, DM to one of us. Like you deserve. If you can show proof that you're doing that currently, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, you said I'm laughing at this thing you said in 20 to 18. I'm like, oh snap! I don't even remember.
Like what?
I don't even want to go back and listen to that one.
You be like, I said that. I didn't mean it.
You done changed a lot, Lou Belgium.
Right.
Yeah. But we do have a great guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
It's funny thing. This is off topic, but this is I read somewhere. I don't even know if it's true. I should have confirmed it, but I've heard this is the first time that Easter, Passover. Well, it's only happened 3 times in a century. Easter, Passover, and Ramadan all happens in the same time period. It only happened 3 times in a century. I don't know if that's true. I should have looked it up. But I was like,
I know it's not something that happens all the time. No.
Right. That's interesting. They said so. Use this time to reflect on peace and love.
Is Passover and Easter around the same time all the time? That's not even around. We're not a religious podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Easter to y'all, though. Happy Easter, Ramadan, Passover, whatever y'all is into. Like,
but like I said, we're gonna get into it because we do have a great guest with us for episode 202. So we're gonna bring in the founder of Pop Culture Magazine, author. He got a new book out. He's gonna tell us about it as well. Kenny G. Let me bring him in. Not the musician.
Sorry. Yeah, you should have played some Kenny G music.
All right. I should have brought my sax out.
Do you play the sax, Kenny G?
No, I can't at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I do have a bunch of merch though from his concerts, and I feel real special when I wear it because it's my name.
Right.
You're talking to me.
Yeah.
So you are an actual fan of the musician?
I've heard it. I don't know if I'm a fan. I like his passion. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna like sit there and listen to it unless I'm in an elevator. But
yeah,
I like that.
I like that. I like that little one at the end of the elevator. I like that.
I've been on a couple podcasts and have never had much to contribute, but I know the answer to your question. Do Passover and Easter fall around the same time?
Okay, come on, yeah.
Come in here and drop some Passover knowledge because I'm excited about that. So the Passover goes on the lunar calendar. Every 28 days, you get a new month. And Easter goes on the solar calendar. 365 days, one day around the sun. So that's why they don't align every year. But we got our months are what, like we got 30 days, 31 days. We got a 28 day. Sometimes a 29 day sneaks in there.
Yeah, 29 day.
Every
Crazy.
once in a while, they align. I know nothing. I can't tell you about Ramadan. I don't know why that switches. I don't know what calendar they follow. But
Right.
Solar versus lunar. Yeah.
I didn't know there were different calendars, so I learned something new every day. I think I heard it before, but I think I heard it before.
You didn't put the process of it, right?
I never knew there was 28 days in a lunar count, like a lunar month. I never.
Yeah, the full moon every 28 days.
Huh. Well, I don't.
It's on the back end right now. It's technically going away.
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Nothing about lunar calendars. That's not what we came here to speak about.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you very much, man.
Right.
I apprciate the knowledge.
But I didn't.
And you're gonna contribute a lot today because you the guest. Like you better say some stuff. We don't have a podcast.
I don't know if I'm topping that. Talk about it. Yeah.
Well, before we get into it, we always like to know what everybody is drinking on. So, we're drinking today. Kenny, are you something?
Oh, I'm starting off. I got my regular old glass of H2O because I'm boring.
All
I heard that.
Oh, gotta hydrate.
Right.
Nothing's wrong with that.
I got you. I got my water too.
quality
There it
H2O.
is. Got my water right there.
Love it. Anybody got some?
All right.
I mean, I just
All
been
right,
drinking
Lou,
my
what you
water all
got?
day.
So listen, man, this is crazy. I got this. This is a cider today. It's called by Down East. They're out of New England. It's a limited release. This is called Guava Passion Fruit. It says it's okay not to know how guava and passion fruit taste. We've done the research for you to take a sip and thank us later. Then I'm supposed to flip this can over, and it says we know it's upside down. Why? Because it's the best way is unfiltered cider is to shake it up. So shake this shit up a little bit. So I shook it up before. This is what it looks like in the joint. And listen,
Does it really say shake this shit up?
I was gonna ask that.
no, man.
Oh.
Absolutely not. It does not say shake this shit up.
Well,
It says
you were reading it, and you made it
Right.
You were reading it like
well.
that's
Thank you
what it
very
said.
much. Thank you very much. They should ask me to read their commercials more often.
I don't
But
know,
shake
man,
this shit
shut
up.
up.
You
You
can't
sound like a liar.
Shake this shit up. Wait 10 seconds and enjoy. It's unfiltered the way it should be. It's really good, man. It tastes more fruitier than I'm used to. Like the cidery. I don't know what that
Oh yeah, 'cause
honey
you-
taste
it's
is with the
so
cider,
it's like
but
kinda
like
sweet.
this is more fruit forward than a honey forward cider. This is delicious. Pass me another. Shout out to Down East.
Let me ask you this: what made you go with a cider?
Today this was in my fridge, and I had gotten beer delivery, and this was in one of my beer delivery bags.
Okay.
So
All right.
Okay,
I chose this one today because the other one
did somebody that they knew you like ciders? The person that delivered the beer?
they thought I may. They know I like sweet shit. So
Okay, so they was like, give them a cider. Okay,
right. Yeah. But cheers to the
Nothing wrong
person,
with that.
and cheers to the cider. Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Nice.
All right, yo.
Well, I ain't drinking no cider. But nah, what I got is the African Queen in her 7 C's
Yay.
IPA. There's the African
Cheers,
Queen,
Cheers.
and here's it says 7 C's IPA. Go on there. This is by Liquid Intrusion Brewing
All right,
Company
all right,
out
all
of
right.
Be More. All right, and so it says it's an ale brewed with African Queen hops, that is, and Falconer's Flight 7 C's hops.
I hope it's just hops, bro.
I didn't want to. I didn't think it was. There was an African Queen in
What
her.
is
It's
happening?
it's just the hops. It's brewed.
What is happening?
The hops. That's the name of the hops. And it's a
That's
6%er. It's a 6%er.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, yo. Don't mean to cut you off. This was 5. The cider is
Okay.
a 5%.
Oh, this was the 0.
Nope. Thank you.
This is
Contributing, Kenny. There you go, contributing.
Right. And this is what it looks like in the glass, nice and gold.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Looks like
What's that? Wheat? Is that wheat or corn, guys? That's wheat, right?
What, the color?
The color. That's wheat, right? Wheat gold.
Yeah,
Corn gold.
I'm more trying to show off my glass than the beer.
Hey, I like that.
I like the glass too. Of course, I'm partial to the glass. I'm biased to the hat too. God damn it! Go to the website.
It's a solid IPA. This is good.
All right. Yeah, it is.
I would pass me another of these.
Yeah.
All right.
I would. Rob G.
Yes, sir.
Are you drinking this week?
Yeah.
What are you drinking on this week then?
I'm actually drinking from Crooked Crab Brewing Company out of Odington, Maryland. I have a Bangers and Mash, and it's actually in ESB. Actually, how about that?
All right.
It is 5%. It's a 5% ABV. There it is.
Okay.
Shout out to Ryan for hooking us up with this. I think I have yours, Lou. I think I gave you yours, Joe.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
There it is.
Yo, in your biased and unbiased opinion, who makes a better ESB?
We do.
Duh.
If you don't know, pick it up. There it is. This ESB right here drops Tuesday at Autumn March and Brews and Banter.
It actually dropped 2 Saturdays ago, so go get it.
So those bottles are available. And me and Rob drank one today.
Yeah, we did.
We sure did.
I drunk one yesterday.
It's very good.
Now this obviously one is not. It's not smoked like ours is smoked as well. But this is just a straight ESB. So I mean, so it is good. So I
want to ask you a question because we did. Go ahead, pass me another. I didn't mean to interrupt. You don't never want to interrupt the horns. But I want to ask you a question because ours was smoked. When we had it, we tasted it side by side with the unsmoked version, and it felt the smoked version felt like a fuller bodied beer to me. Do you feel that way? Tasting that ESB is less bodied because of the non-smoke?
No, I think it's just I think the smoked adds more complexity, I guess. So maybe that's what you say fuller body. It is more complexity, obviously, because we had toasted malts, but we also had we had smoked malt, but we also had the toasted spirals as well, oak spirals. So it gave it a lot more complexity in terms of what it is. But they're both good. Shout out to Autumn March. Shout out to Crooked Crab.
Yeah, shout out to Crooked Crab.
Right.
All that good stuff. All right, but
I know what you just said. If y'all could read in between the lines,
ours is better.
Yes. Smoky ESB. God damn it. Yeah. All right.
Well, hey, I'm always gonna be partial to ours, obviously.
Right.
As you should. Until somebody come up and make it better.
Right.
And look, they can't.
They
can't unless they made it with us.
That's but we do have Kenny on here, and he has a bio. He has a bio that's a mouthful. So we want him to give everybody who doesn't know who Kenny is, because I know a lot of people who are watching this or listen to him like, yo, you already know who Kenny is. So, but for those who do not know you, Kenny, once again, we want to welcome to the program. So, can you introduce who you are and what you want? I'm gonna give you another hand shot. Welcome.
Hand shot.
I know. I said hand shot.
He was hoping I'd just take it away and we just
please don't get this man a headshot.
My name is Kenny Gould, Kenny G. Not the only Kenny G in the beer industry. Ken Grossman from Sierra Nevada is another Kenny G, which is kind of fun. I'm the founder of Hop Culture Magazine. Go by Hop Culture Ken on Instagram. What else can I tell you? 2020, I sold Hop Culture to the company that runs Untappd. So now I am the director of strategic sales for Untappd. Still overseeing Hop Culture. We also own Beer Advocate, so get to work with that brand a little bit. And things are good. I'm enjoying life. Just got engaged. That was cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Came out with that book. So that was cool too. Has nothing to do with beer, but that was a blast. And that's me in a nutshell. Got a dog, 2 cats.
You got a YouTube series as well?
I got a YouTube series. I do. Yeah, I'm the host of a show called Next Exit. That does have to do with beer. If you want to check it out, type in Untappd, Untappd, and Next Exit on YouTube. And I visited, what did we do in the first season? We did Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Philly, and Brooklyn.
I saw it. He was at fermentatory form and human robot. You had the milk tube and everything.
I have 2 milk tubes.
Really, you got lucky just having 2.
Yeah, I know. I live, which was more than some could say.
Yeah, because it could be a lot.
It can be. It's good.
So let's see. So where did Kenny? Let's take it back though. Where did Kenny start? Like, where is Kenny coming from? How did Kenny get into this craft beer scene?
It's a good question. Let's see. How far back do you want to go? From Pittsburgh?
As far back you want to go?
The first beer into the first.
People like, well, I was a baby, and then I turned into a kid.
Nah, when the beer happened, not the baby.
All right, the beer. So my first beer was Allagash White, as many people's first beer. Terrific beer. And I was a freshman in college, and there was this senior that I wanted to do what he was doing because I was a freshman. He was a senior, super nice guy. He's a doctor now, which is cool. Good for him. But he was a cool dude, and I was in Durham, North Carolina, and there was this joint called Sam's Quick Shop, and it was just like when you think of like the OG beer stores, like walking through these like musty aisles, and there's just like all types of bottles, cool packaging you've never seen before. We used to go in there every week, and we would get 1 light beer and 1 dark beer. And then we would find 4 other people, and we'd each drink 2 beers. We get 2 6-packs and hang out. And I thought that was pretty fun. And then when he graduated, I took that over, and I started doing it with people. And so that's kind of how I started learning about beer. And then when I graduated,
your boy had like an unofficial 1-man club until you showed up.
Then he had a 2-man club,
right?
And it was good excuse to make friends, though.
Yeah. Get 2 6-packs and find 4 more people. That's cool.
Yeah, right.
Was it different people every week?
Yeah, we tried to include different people.
That's good. Yeah. Can't hang without. You can't come, Jenny. You came last week.
Yes.
We're hanging out.
Also, we don't like you, so
you can't.
He must have had a bad experience with Jenny.
Right.
Yeah. Jenny's trifling.
So was it like a strategic thing that it had to be a light beer and a dark beer?
That was the strategic part. That was the only strategic piece of it. Yeah, it didn't matter what the 2 beers were. It didn't matter what style.
Light and dark.
We needed 2 different styles: 1 light, 1 dark.
How would you know if you were doing it with cans?
It's a great question. We knew the styles. We also talked to the shitty guy who ran the store, who was just so mean every time. So you have a question? Fuck you. Like,
how do people like that keep their jobs?
Right? Yeah, that's how.
Like he can't sweep that good. You cannot sweep that good
because he's like, you still gonna come in here and get this beer. I'll see you next week.
I remember
you like it.
I went in there once and I was like, this was back when Founders Kentucky Breakfast Stout was like the biggest thing going. And I went in there once right around release. I was like, hey, are you guys getting in any KBS? And he looks me dead in the eyes and he goes, man, you got to kick a nun in the pussy if you want one of those. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. Oh man, they were awful. But the beer,
that's kind of, you said you're not going to bring it. You said the best you could do is Passover. Your religious stuff is on point, bro.
I didn't even think about that. But you're right.
So that means it's hard, right? That means it's hard.
I'm gonna assume that he means that that's hard. It's hard to find. Like you got to do. I never.
No, like it's something you don't want to do. Like I would never want to do that to a nun. That sweet nun.
Well, maybe that means the price is high. That's what it meant. The price. the exclusivity,
Oh,
and you gotta
wouldn't get
do
in that.
something.
You definitely get in that.
Yo,
next
time my daughter be like, "Oh, I want these new pair of Jordans," I'm like, "Baby, you gotta kick a nut in the pussy before."
Yes, before I can afford the money to get these Jordans. These Jordans too hot.
Yeah.
There you
Are
go.
you willing to spend a lifetime in damnation? Because you can't kick no gun in the pussy.
It's funny because it sounds like even though dude was kind of an asshole, y'all continue to go get y'all beer.
Because he never steered us wrong. He never steered us wrong. You know.
Okay.
And he was kind of like the fixture, right? He was kind of like you could always count on getting that experience there. So I love that place. I don't even know if it's still there, but it was cool, and that's where I started like my beer journey. So that was.
You said this was in Durham. You said.
Yeah, Durham, North Carolina.
Okay. All right.
Actually, I just realized, this is one of my old employees' bars. I'm pointing to my chest like people listening to this can see, but the shirt I'm wearing is from the Daily Beer Bar. So they're in Durham now. They just opened up a couple months ago. So I give him a shout out. Check out the Triangle area.
All right.
Okay. That's dope.
All right. So from the I guess the exclusive beer club. So where did that go to?
Yeah, so I've started homebrewing too. That kid, when he graduated, gave me his homebrewing equipment, but I was just never very good at it, and I didn't take to it the way a lot of people do. But I was a writer. I'd studied English and was really interested in writing. And so when I graduated, I moved to the Big Apple, New York, and took a job with a magazine there. And they were just getting started. And so I remember the editor said to me, make a list of everything you know a little bit about. And if you finish what we give you, all the articles, you can write about whatever you want and turn it in and we'll publish it. Because at the time I was trying to build up my portfolio. And I made that list. And one of the things I knew a lot about was beer, a little bit about, but enough to like be dangerous and also enough to write to breweries and say, hey, I'm thinking about including this beer in my article. Can you send me a box of it? And that, when I was 22 years old, was like the greatest hack.
Yeah.
You
found the key. You found the key.
Man. They sent anything I wanted. They would send me. Some of those I still have. I have a Firestone Walker Parabola from 2014 that I had called in for an article. It was an article I was doing on the 10 best Russian Imperial Stouts. And I had 2 friends in town that weekend. And I was like, all right, here's all these stouts on the table. We're going to try them all. And we're taking notes because I got to write this article. I think we got through 3 of them. It was like these 750 milliliter bottles. We got through 3 and we were just hammered. Couldn't finish them. But
yeah, because I'm sure they were high ABV as well, probably.
it's like
good R&D.
14.
Yeah, he said Imperial.
Yeah.
Imperial.
You said 14%?
Oh yeah, they get up there, man. Yeah, it was stupid. I don't know why.
You guys got through 3?
Yeah, we didn't even finish them either.
They needed more people.
Right, you needed to get your 6.
Right, I wish I knew you guys.
Yeah, there you go.
We're always available for R&D.
So that's how I started like writing about beer, and it was so funny at the time. All I wanted to do is write fiction. I've wanted to be a fiction writer since I was a kid, and I couldn't find anybody to pay me to do that. So I got this job with a magazine, figuring I'd write, and I couldn't sell a fiction piece to anyone. But every single beer article I wrote just got snapped up like that. Somebody wanted it. So I ended up writing for that magazine and started branching out a little bit, started writing for some others, wrote for Time Out New York and Bon Appetit and Men's Health and Thrillist and all kinds of different articles just about beer. Because this was at a time, man, when, 2012, there were 2,000 breweries in the country. And now there's like over 9,000.
Right.
And that's been in the last decade, really. So good time to be getting into the game. And the thing I realized at the time was that the magazine I worked for, it was just digital. And I thought that was pretty cool because you don't need paper.
Right.
You gotta pay for paper, more environmentally friendly, distribute it anywhere if it's online. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, you could see exactly how many people were on the site reading which articles at any given time. And whenever I wrote a beer piece, it was just like, just spiked. So I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this.
Right, that's dope.
At some point, my boss was like, "We're not a beer magazine. You got to write about something other than."
You know what? I was going to ask you. I was like, "Well, was it a beer?"
Right. Like, how many articles did you? He said in the beginning he only had to write. He had to do his assignments, and then he could write about beer. Like, did he stop writing his assignments?
You created, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I started.
So when did you say, you know what, I want to do an actual beer, like bigger, like, so when did hop culture become, I think, or was the original, I guess, inclination of original, I guess ideal hop culture, or did you have something before hop culture came along?
So no, that was kind of the original idea. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Well, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a fiction writer, but it didn't really seem viable. I don't know too many, 20-something-year-olds doing that professionally. So no, I just started writing about beer, and I think I was just noticing that every time I did it, people were kind of snapping it up. And I went out to California for a little bit, lived in the Bay Area. That was cool. And then I went and I got my MFA in Pittsburgh. So Master of Fine Arts in Writing. And it was while I was doing that I'm trying to remember like what the start was, but I think it was that I was writing for a local beer magazine in Pittsburgh about breweries. And this is Pittsburgh. It's not a big city, right? It's a town that plays a city on TV. My job was to know what breweries were opening, and there were breweries opening a mile from my house that like I didn't know about. They would just like, oh, it's open now. And it's like, what? How is that? How is that possible? And I knew from moving back and forth across the country, like it wasn't just Pittsburgh. It was happening everywhere. And so that's when I said, somebody should really like make a guidebook of all these breweries because there's so many new breweries opening up. Somebody should like compile that. And then I was like, well, that's silly because it's 2016 and like, people aren't really reading like physical stuff anymore. It's all digital. So I was like, they should just make a digital resource. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's what I have trained to do for the last half decade of my life. I should do that. So that was the idea. I couldn't think of a name. I don't want to tell you the names I had because they were so bad. But
you got to tell us. If you remember them, you got to tell us.
At least one.
The number one idea I had was, oh my God, finding it like physically. I'm having a reaction. It was Bruce Sleuth, like a detective.
Bruce Sleuth.
I guess my stomach is like.
I mean, it's
not even the name. It's not the name. It's the way you're reacting to it. It's the way it makes you feel.
So
That's
bad.
what's so funny.
It's so.
Oh man, I was in the car. What's up?
I was going to say it's hard to say, but it's a good name. Like I see where you were going with it, but I'm so happy you landed on hop culture because Bruce Sleuth. Bruce Sleuth.
Don't even put that.
Yeah, it's crazy because I know you feel like it's like horrible, right? But next month somebody have a digital beer mag called
Bruce Sleuth.
Actually, no, they probably do. Bruce Sleuth would be a beer-based scavenger hunt company.
It'd be a find your Pokemon, like the app that find your Pokemon.
Well, no, they would take like in your cities. There's a whole lot of these breweries. They would do like scavenger hunts pertaining to these breweries.
Right, why not?
Bruce Sleuth. My bad. I'm sorry.
No,
So
That's ours. That's ours.
We're gonna
Beer tours, Brew Sleuth beer tours.
We're going to see it in 5 years, and someone's going to be on a podcast, and they're going to say, "So how'd you think of that?" And they're going to say, "I was listening to this podcast 5 years."
and they said, "No, don't do it." And I'm like, "I'm doing it." I hope so. Cheers to you. Cheers to you in the future. Person.
That's scavenger I love scavenger hunts too. So
I like Brew Sleuth, Brew tours.
Bruce
Yeah,
Lee.
like I mean, it's a weird name, but I mean,
Can you say it, Yoda? Can you say it 5 times fast? Bruce Lee.
You can't say it 2 times.
Nah, like I can't even get out twice. Yeah, Bruce.
You gonna end up saying Blues Clues.
That's right. If somebody can do it, they can take the name and start.
That's the payment.
Yeah, and I'll write about it. How about that?
There it
Maybe
is.
on Instagram.
There it is. Like
Right.
What's
What's another one you had?
Honestly, I don't remember.
That was the one.
I see.
Well, he remembered that one because that was probably his worst.
He said it was physically emotional for him right there.
I couldn't. That was actually the thing that was holding me back. I couldn't think of a name, and I was in the car with my friends, and I was talking to them about it. And we had a big weekend. We were coming back from West Virginia, where we'd been at some event, and I was with 2 of my friends, and I was telling them I had this idea, but I couldn't think of a name, and they were just like not having it. They were like, "We just want to ride in the car in silence." And so, a good bit of silence, and then my friend Leslie, she just goes, "What about hop culture?" And I was like, "That's the best name I've ever heard." So I looked it up, and it was available, and it was it was one of those moments where I was like, "It sounds like it should be a thing already."
Yeah,
right.
And it's not. So
that's usually when you know you got a name.
Right.
When you go to
I didn't know that.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a name.
Good.
So do you remember the I guess the first article for the magazine?
I don't know if I remember the first, but I spent, because I was in grad school, and so I was just like doing odd jobs and stuff while I was in grad school, and so I had some mobility. I was like tutoring, I was like announcing sports at the local college, and so I was traveling around a bit, doing a lot of freelance writing. I remember some of the first, I stacked some content. So it was just me at the beginning. And so I just went around and like interviewed people. And I was really focused, like at the time, there were a lot of print magazines that would tell you like what a beer tasted like. It would be like a beer review. Right. And I never found that particularly interesting because I was always like, I'll just taste it and I'll tell you if I taste strawberries, you know? Right. Like you don't need to tell me that it tastes like strawberries. I think I'll know if like the brewer's done a good job. So I was just more interested in like the stories, right? Like who is behind it? Like everybody's got something if you talk to them long enough, like why are they making beer? Like how'd they get into that? So that's what I was really focused on. I remember one of the early articles, Garrett Oliver was like kind enough to sit down with me, which was cool. I mean, I had some cred at that point from writing for all these other magazines. Right. So I knew some of these people and had covered their brands in the past, but still it's like, hey, I'm writing for a magazine that doesn't exist yet. Can I get an hour of your time? But so he was pretty generous. And that article was still one of the first for sure. And one of the most impactful in terms of like, that's a dude who knows beer.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
I remember talking to Avery Swanson, who at the time was the head brewer at Jester King. I think she was in her 20s too at the time. So just to be the head brewer at such an incredible brewery at such a young age was just like, I think a testament to the work that she was doing there and what a brilliant brewer she is. So yeah, those were like two of the early ones I remember. But yeah, it's cool. It's a lot of those early articles are, I mean, Garrett Oliver at the time was like kind of a big name, but you look at like the beer OGs and it was a lot of those early people who were just getting started around like, well, not the OGs, but the people who were getting started in like 2016 or so.
Right.
yeah, talked to a lot of them. It was fun.
right.
Damn, you got Gary Oliver, and you wasn't even like a pop in the magazine.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
good.
Well, but hey, who is Beer? Like he said, he had some credits to his name at that point.
Yeah, he had
So-
enough cachet to get a
I was
response.
also real charming in my letter to him. So
yeah, so he had more than
Oh,
just
it's a charm.
yeah.
I won't say it wasn't. We'd have to ask Garrett for sure. So.
When so at this time, where that do or even now, I don't even know. Do you have probably, but like, were there other writers, or it was just yourself doing all this?
Yeah. So at the beginning, there was a guy I had gone to college with and was good friends with, and then he ended up working at the same magazine that I worked at in New York. So we'd known each other for a good while, and I realized this probably wasn't something I was going to be able to do by myself. So I talked to him about coming on board as a partner. So he joined up, and then we ended up, there was a really cool program at the University of Pittsburgh where like people who wanted class credit could get an internship. I would sign off that, we had a structured internship and it was going to be a real class.
Okay.
And they would get class credit and we would get articles and kind of help these young writers develop. And so one of them actually from that first group now works for that magazine I used to work at in New York. So the first magazine I ever worked at.
Wow.
Working for them, Evan Malakowski, if you see his name pop up on articles. So so I think it was like me and then my partner, and then he was in New York, I was in Pittsburgh at the time, and I had like 7 or 8 interns just rotating through my studio apartment, just like all doing different stuff. We had someone who was doing graphic design, someone who was doing a couple writers. We had one person that was running our social media. And then, that's how we started getting our original content. We launched January 17th, 2017. Was our first article. I was 26 years old, I think. So finishing up with grad school and was like, well, I hope I figure out how to make money doing this soon, because I got a degree that nobody's paying me for. And
got some bills coming due. Yeah.
I think that's like, you can only do that in your 20s. That's like a thing that that youthful optimism. You're just like,
take that step out like that. Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
Especially because in your 20s, a lot of times, if you don't have kids or you're not married or you're not tied down, or
you've already been in 4 major cities.
Right.
You've been where you in? New York, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and California.
Yeah, I moved around quite a bit.
Yeah, so no one's doing that with 18 kids.
Right.
And a wife.
18 kids?
Can't do it. It's hard to do, man. It's really hard to do.
So it's making 18 kids. That's hard to do too. But
listen, that'd be tough too. It's not as hard as. Never mind.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, thinking's the fun part.
All right. So I'm curious to know, like, in terms of, I know you said in like, did you say in 2021 you sold to Untappd? Is that what you said?
Yeah, November
2020. 2020. I was curious in terms of that. In terms of, was that because you just figured like I brought it as far as I can go with just who me, and so to see it grow and become a bigger brand, is that was one of the catalysts or the one of the reasons that you said, you know what, let's try something different. And I also want to start focusing on other things like writing your fiction stuff. Is that one of the reasons that you went that way?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, at that point, my partner had left. He decided, the entrepreneurial grind was not really for him. And so he stepped away. So I was kind of doing it alone, which was tough. At that point too, we were also I've thrown 52 beer festivals in my life, all over the country. Yeah.
52 beer festivals.
Yeah, we were doing like one a month. We were on a cadence. one a month, and there were like 4 of us. Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a tall order, man, and so I was like just pretty burnt out, I think. But
You think?
yeah, maybe. And now that you mention it, I don't know. I also never. It wasn't what I had wanted to do. Like I like accidentally became editor in chief of the magazine almost. It's like, and it was awesome, and the ride was awesome. But it got to a point where I think I just like wanted to do something different. And at that point, I was writing for Forbes magazine, kind of freelancing, and I had interviewed the CEO of a company called Next Glass, which is my current employer. That's who acquired Hot Culture, for an article. And I just found what he had to say to be very compelling. And I thought it was really cool. And we had connected on LinkedIn. And a couple weeks later, I saw that he was looking for someone in marketing. And so I just reached out to him and I said, hey, would you ever consider, bringing on me and my team? That's kind of what we do in the beer industry. And he said, well, let me know the next time you'll be in Charlotte and we can talk about it, because that actually sounds like an interesting idea. And the company is headquartered in Charlotte. So I said, oh my God, I'll be in Charlotte next week.
Tomorrow.
Another beer fest.
Yeah, exactly. So we set an hour meeting. We ended up talking for 3 hours. And at the end of it, he said, we're really interested. We're going to send you a letter of intent, an LOI. And if everything looks good, we'll move forward. And I was like, nice. Well, damn, I guess this is happening. So that's how it went.
But let me ask you this: if it's not getting too personal, what did he say that was so compelling that made you say, "Hey, let me look and go further into this"?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think for those people who are joining us who might not know so much about the beer industry yet, this might make a little less sense. So I'll try and lay it out in a way that will be accessible and also not boring as shit for the people. But basically, in the US, there's the 3-tier system of distribution for alcohol. Mm-hmm. You have somebody who makes it, somebody who moves it from point A to point B, and then somebody who sells it at point B. And there are, if you're in the same state, that doesn't apply, right? There are a lot of, it does in some states actually, still, but most states at this point, you can self-distribute if you're under a certain barrel, making under a certain barrel count. What's Delaware? Can you self-distribute?
No, you cannot.
Wow. Okay, so Delaware is one of those states, right, where a brewery makes the beer, a distributor moves it from point A to point B, and the retailer or the bar or whoever it is sells it at the end. And legally, you cannot own any 2 or 3 of those pieces of the puzzle. You got to own only one piece of the puzzle. Okay. And that law was created because in England, you did not have that law. And so you would get what were called tied houses, right? Where the wealthy breweries would just buy the bars. And then you'd go to a town and the bars would all basically be owned by the breweries, and they would only put their own beers on tap. Right. Mm-hmm. So this law, for as silly and anti-free trade as it is, I think is actually one of the things that allowed for the proliferation of all of these small independent craft breweries in the United States, because you could play a fairer game at the point of sale, right? Like the breweries weren't allowed to own the bars legally, so they could just buy up the bars. And so if you think about any system, right, like anytime a product moves from one hand to the other, there are inherent inefficiencies. So I make my beer, I get it, I sell it to a distributor. And then I don't know what happens to it. The distributor, it's their job to go sell it to, maybe it's going to grocery stores. Maybe it's going to, I don't know. And even if you think of those 3 points, right? Someone makes it, someone moves it, someone sells it. There are points on either side of that where then somebody's making the raw materials, somebody's moving the raw materials. And then on the other side, somebody's drinking the beer, they're buying it from a retailer, they're drinking it, and then talking about it with their friends, right? So there's this whole chain, right, of what it takes to get from a raw ingredient to us talking about beers right now. And what Trace, the CEO, wanted to do is basically create the pipelines between all of those points in that chain, and ensure that there was kind of a seamless stream of information from the very beginning of that chain to the very end of that chain. And so NextGlass does not own any of the pieces of the chain, but they are building the software infrastructure that connects all pieces of that.
Okay.
And so that's what that was the vision that was laid out for me, and that's what we're bringing to life. I think it's better for it's good for everyone in that chain, right? Like there's more transparency around every piece of the puzzle, and so for the consumer too to know exactly where something started, right on through to it touching their lips. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So
okay, I mean that makes sense.
He was like,
that is intriguing.
Yeah, shot. Yeah, don't ever not take your shot, people. You know,
right?
Yeah. So I was like, that's compelling. I'd like to be a part of that, and try some other things. So that's why I decided to move forward. It's difficult, right? Like selling something that you created and built from scratch. It's something. In another way, though, I do think I was saying that shot that I took with Hot Culture was something I could only take when I was in my 20s. But I think too, like it was because I started it in my 20s that I felt like I could move on. Like I didn't get to the last chapter of my book, right? Oh, this journey is just getting started. And so I had done it for 4 years, built it into a pretty cool business, and that was as far as I could take it. And it was just time to go try something else. So I sold it, and I signed a 3-year contract. So that's coming up this November. And then as part of the deal too, they sent me back to grad school again to get my MBA this time, which is way more functional degree than an MFA.
Well, and even what you just said, that takes a lot of reflection. Like, this is as far as self-reflection in terms of that. Like, this is as far as I can honestly take it.
And that's as far as that I want to. Like you said, he it's his baby, and he got to let it go, and he was willing to do that. Yeah.
This was by chance anyway. Like I kind of fell into it, so it's like you know what, I made it this far. It's like so, and hey, that's what's up. I'll give it. That's what's up. And
the last interview got him to the job and the selling point. Like
So was it something that Untappd reached out to you, or you reached out to Untappd?
I reached out to them. Yeah, after I interviewed the CEO for that Forbes article.
Okay.
So I say, see, networking and connections help people.
You
never know. All about the cool thing about culture now. So way back in the day, we had an intern in New York. I had sent out a flyer to an NYU message board because I thought there'd be smart kids coming from NYU, and so I
thought they'll be smart.
We got a hit. We got a hit from someone named Grace Whites, and she wanted to be. She came and she was an editorial intern for us, and then when the internship was over, she was like, "Hey, do you have any writing jobs?" And we had just hired actually the kid who just keep pointing to the wrong side. The kid who had just started that bar in Durham I was talking about as our editor, and we only had one salary. Enough money in the bank for one salary for a full-time writer. So I was like, we don't, but we do need a head of sales. And Grace, I knew, had played D1 soccer. She's quiet, but I knew she was competitive. And my dad had always told me, if you're going to get a salesperson, you want somebody with who can compete, you know? So I thought that was, I didn't know what to think of that advice, but I knew Grace played soccer. And so I was like, yeah, we need a head of sales. Do you want to do it? And Grace was like, no, but I will. And Grace was our head of sales for 4 years, the entirety of the time that we ran Hop Culture. And then John left to go start his bar, the Daily Beer Bar in Durham. And that position opened up, and Grace said, hey, are you guys looking for a manager?
It's my time now.
Grace is now the managing editor of Pop Culture, and in fact, the managing editor of the entire Next Glass ecosystem. So she runs the Untappd editorial component, so the Untappd blog, all the newsletters that go out through Pop Culture and Untappd come through Grace. So now she's the managing editor of the whole system. So if you go to popculture.com and you like what you see, that's all Grace. So I got to give her a shout out.
Hey, Grace.
Shoot. Give yourself a shout out for taking that chance, because
that's 2 for 2. That was Grace.
And she could have said, because she could have said no to the sales job.
Right.
You see that? There's John right here, and there's me, and that's Grace. I got the picture right on my desk.
There it is. There it is. So I'm curious to know, like, just going in terms of that. So now this is happening, and now you're in the role with Next Glass and stuff like that. So when did you decide, you know what, I want to get out there and see more? So when did you decide to do the Next Exit YouTube series? Like, well, how did that come about? And like, what was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, so when I started at Next Glass, I was the creative director. That's the role I came in as. And so it was my job to be creative, which I'm good at. I like doing. So I had pitched my bosses on this idea because just like, years ago, I said, I'm going to start digitally online because print is going out. I said, okay, it's now 5-6 years later. I'm going to start, we should be doing video, video content is like the big thing right now. And so we thought about that, and a show like that, a travel show where we visit, there's all sorts of travel shows where people go visit restaurants and talk to chefs.
Right.
There's Parts Unknown, Anthony Bourdain's one of my favorites. You got Bizarre Foods. Yeah, and I love those. So those are some of my favorite shows. And I wanted to see somebody do that with beer, and actually like get into the stories behind the beer. That's what my whole career has been about, is storytelling, right? So that's what I really wanted to do with the show. So I pitched them, and they were game. They said, go do a pilot episode. So I did it in Pittsburgh because that's where I was living at the time, and the city I know well. And that was a really cool episode. We did it 20 or so minutes. We got all types of cool people in there. We got Dave Bracey, founder of Barrel and Flow Fest. We went to my favorite Chinese restaurant in Pittsburgh called Chengdu Gourmet. We got one of my favorite dive bars in Pittsburgh, Kelly's. We got, who else? Dancing Gnome beer I threw in there. We went to Pittsburgh Brewing Company. So we did that episode, and the feedback was awesome. We got like 50,000 views on that video and ton of engagement. Nice things, super mean things. I don't know if I was prepared for the amount of vitriol the internet was going to throw at me when I a show, so but weird. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
So that's how I came to life.
Yeah, because it's actually, I've seen them, and then they are very well done. And because I noticed some of the people in the Philadelphia one, I know Day as well in the Pittsburgh one, but because I saw, like, hey, some of these people I've seen around in Philadelphia, so I was like, this is kind of cool. But even Day in the Pittsburgh one as well. But they are well. So you said that was all season 1, correct?
That was all season 1. Yep.
So is there a season 2 coming?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I would like there to be. We're working on it right now. So video's expensive, man. It's now I realize why not that many people make long form video.
Yeah, especially with production like that, because it's like good production.
Yeah, because it definitely was. But you got to
go through the whole. You got to make the most of that whole time at the sit in that particular city. So, like you said, the Chinese restaurant, talking a day, going to the different breweries. Like that's a couple of days worth of just for 20 minutes of what we got to see.
We had to do it in one day. Every city was a day, and you're right. We ended up filming 8 or 9 hours of footage in that day, and we boil that down to about 20 minutes.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's a long day for everybody involved.
For 20 minutes.
You seem upset.
Woo! 9 hours.
But you still got Atlanta to go to.
We got so many cities to go to. What's your favorite, Rob G? Where should I go?
That he hasn't been to.
I would say. I enjoy. the Miami beer scene is actually picking up. So Miami beer scene is actually starting to percolate. Because I went on Jay Wakefield and all that whole Wynwood section, and even outside of there now, because you have Lincoln's Beard and Tripping Animals and the Doral area. So I think that scene. They have Miami Beer Week coming up soon as well. So I would enjoy that show as well. Just because I actually took that strip roll. I just went one by one down that strip, just drinking beer. It was amazing.
And we about to do it again next week.
Yeah.
Are you going to Florida next week?
Yeah, for the 20th. So for Miami Beer Week, we'll be there.
Oh, great. I might be in Miami next week.
Oh, man, look at this.
Let me look at this. Oh, we'll have to meet up.
I sure will.
When's
It's the 20th through the 23rd.
Yep,
that's when
we'll be done. Yep.
Yeah, we'll be there for Ari Jungle and
that's where I'm going to. All right.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Cool.
Irie.
That's crazy.
This is cool. I don't have to worry about my fiance hearing about this because there's zero chance she's listening to a beer podcast.
Yeah.
You guys,
Nice.
I hit up Tripping Animals to make me a beer from our wedding.
Nice.
Their cans with all the crazy stones.
Yeah.
So I sent them a picture of me and her, and they're gonna do a can for it.
Yo, that's nice.
I hope she's not going to listen to this if it's a surprise. I really hope that she's not going to hear it.
Yeah, she won't.
And I'm pretty sure we know who the artist would be because they talked about him on the podcast. He's a good artist because we were talking about how cool the artwork was. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
what's up? Yeah, so,
that's a good idea. You came up with that yourself?
Yeah, I did. Well,
he's creative. He's a creative.
Yeah. I'm a
Did you not say a beer drinker though? She doesn't drink. Does she drink beer?
Does she? Yeah, she drinks beer. She likes beer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
She drinks enough. She drinks it enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got you. I wasn't sure. She'd be like, "What is this?" Well, this was
the artwork. The artwork's enough.
Yeah. Exactly. Save a can of that.
That's nice.
Like the ages.
Is he going to make y'all animals or are y'all going to be people?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, you just gave the picture. Okay.
I said,
that's going to be dope. So you'll get it. You'll get it when you go down there.
No, the wedding's in December. So
nice. So you're going to be surprised. Like, are they making they're making a specific beer for the wedding as well?
I don't know. I got to talk to him about that. I just talked to him about the idea, and Iggy was like, "Yeah, we're doing it. Let's do it. Send me that picture."
Okay.
So I did, and we'll see how it comes out.
That should be dope, dude.
Yeah. So I would say Miami, Atlanta. I think
Atlanta in the springtime.
Would be two good episodes. Even because even though I'm like
Chicago be good. Did y'all go to Chicago already?
Chicago scene's nuts.
Yeah. So, what's the? I don't know because I haven't watched the full episodes on them. But like, what has there been any black breweries on the show?
No, we didn't have any black breweries on the show. But You were talking about Miami. I just tried Savage Life down there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had their beer?
We haven't, but I knew who they are. They had that. They got that cool. Man. They got that cool box. That thing is amazing. That whole marketing thing is crazy.
Yeah. So that's that. I just went to a conference in Boston, and I connected with Conso Brewing and Funky Town.
Yes,
shout to Rich. Shout to Rich. Rich and the crew.
The boys at Capsule in Richmond, Virginia. That one's coming out. So, there was a black-owned brewery. We did go to one in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Esoteric.
Man, you gonna have to give us an episode or something like that. Get a black brewery episode.
Yeah. No, we got Esoteric in there. We talked today about Barrel and Flow, which I'm excited.
Yeah, because that'd be the easiest way to do it, because since they're all spread out, but they'll be all concentrated in Pittsburgh that time. That'd be
So you're going to Barrel and Flow too?
Yeah, this year.
Oh man, we gonna be hanging out all year.
Yeah, we friends now.
All summer.
I'll show you 2 6-packs, light beer, dark beer.
Yeah. We just need 2 more people. We just need 2 more people. We good.
Yeah. Well, because so that's So I think those are my 2 that I would like to see.
All right.
Atlanta and Chicago. Hey, maybe I can make a cameo. Like, hey.
You're gonna be in the background, like
I'll come and serve some. I'll come and bring the beer to the table.
Look in the camera. That's funny.
I was on the show. Hey, it worked.
That would be some of the footage that didn't make it.
So let me ask you this: every time I hear or talk to people that do like YouTube and things of that nature, like, is this something that you're looking to go further with, like maybe like be on a Food Network or something of that nature? Are you looking at it bigger than the YouTube scene, even though the YouTube scene nowadays is where it's at, but like are you looking forward to go like TV wise?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it would be a ton of fun. I had a blast doing those episodes. I think if I did it again, I mean, we did 3 in a row. We went from Philly to Brooklyn to Baltimore, and then had like a 2-day break, and then went out to Cincinnati. That was a lot. That was that was pretty exhausting. And you're drinking all day too.
Yes.
Camera all day. So there's a lot of travel and stuff. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. It was a super fun process. I really like talking to new people and meeting people. So I would love to do something like that. If anybody listening wants to do it and has some connections, we'll make it happen. But it's not a world I really know. Mm-hmm. Whereas like beer, I know how to now make a business in the beer world, but kind of the media world, the video media, like it's not something I know as much about. So
right. Yeah, and have Food Network foot the bill. Right. And I need to go back again, because you said 52 Beer Fest. Like, so
I was going back to it.
Yeah,
going back to 52 as well.
I don't even know how we skipped past.
Yeah,
what? My mind was so boggled after he said it.
One question for 52 Beer Fest. Jesus.
Yes, that. Okay, so
why?
Here's the thing. Yeah, I'll tell you. This is a good question. When we started Hop Culture, January 17th, 2017, I thought that we were going to run a business model that was real similar to the magazine that both myself and my partner at the time had worked for previously, which is called affiliate marketing. And what that is you write a bunch of content. It's all free. People Google, they find it. And it's usually a lot of lists or recommendations. People then go and buy the products that you're writing about, and you get a portion of that sale. So if I wrote about, the 10 best wheeled suitcases or something, and you were in the market for a wheeled suitcase, you might type into Google, like,
best will 2 cases.
Yeah, exactly. You find my article, you click on one of those, you go to the site, you end up buying one. The site that sent you there gets a portion of that sale. And so I did that forgetting that because of alcohol laws at the time, you couldn't really sell beer online. And so like it quickly became obvious that was not going to be a viable business model. Right. And so we were kind of racking our brains like, okay, well, what do? We were trying to sell advertising, but we didn't have an audience yet. And so nobody wants to buy advertising to a publication that doesn't have any readers, right? And so kind of on a whim, we decided to throw this beer festival with Dancing Gnome Brewing in their backyard. It was going to be 12 breweries that you couldn't really get in Pittsburgh at that time. And I think, so I just called up my 11 favorite breweries and I was like, hey, you want to come to this festival? And everyone said yes. And I don't know why. Okay? I was 11 for 11. Every single person said yes. They came in and tickets went on sale. And I remember this day because my partner was like, hey, dude, like, did you set the ticketing site up correctly? And I was like, yeah. Like, why? And he's like, because tickets went on sale a minute ago and we have no tickets.
Wow.
And I was like, no, like I definitely said that. I double checked that. He's like, fuck you, man. You just fucked it up. Like, I triple checked it. And then we checked the bank account and we had a lot of money in the bank account.
Sold out.
500 tickets in 10 seconds.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Wait. Hold on. Stop right here.
All right.
So how did, like, because I'm just thinking about the marketing for it, like the promotion for this. Like, what did y'all do to promote it? That all these people like knew about it and it sold out in that quick.
The miracle of Pittsburgh, I call it. I have no idea. I don't know to this day, and I've spent 51 more beer festivals trying to figure it out. I don't know. I think it was just like the right place, the right time, and it was in Pittsburgh, which is, you know, a city where I'm from. It was Dancing Gnome's anniversary then, and they were just starting to pop off. Okay. And I think like it was just this kind of confluence of
good timing.
So, what's up?
I said good timing. It sounded like.
So that was that. We did that festival, and then we said, okay, let's do that again. And so we went and we did it in New York. Then we went and did it in Columbus, Ohio, and then we went to Richmond, Virginia, and Tucson, Arizona, then Richmond, Virginia, and we just kept bringing this thing around. And the idea was going to be, it was like super curated. I mean, now you could go to a festival every weekend you want and between, but at the time there wasn't, you couldn't really get that experience anywhere. So
so we all did it other places. Was it still as intimate? Because to me, like 12 breweries is kind of, or 11 breweries is kind of like still an intimate.
It was, that first one was super intimate. No, we built them a little bigger, but it always kind of felt underground. So we tried never to go above 1,000 people. We tried to break it into 2 sessions. I mean, the goal was really for people to be able to interact with the brewers. And that was one of our goals too, that like, if we were having a brewery there, they couldn't just send a rando. They couldn't just get some volunteer. Like it had to be like a brewer or an owner.
Somebody that knew what they were pouring.
Yeah, exactly. Because like that was, we were trying to facilitate that connection between the people who loved beer and like these brewers that they had heard of and probably followed on Instagram, but like had never gotten a chance to try or anything. And
that's funny because that's to me that's important, because sometimes, you know, you're at a beer fest and you'll go up to somebody's booth and you'll ask them about the beer and they can't really. I don't know.
I don't work here. I just pour this beer.
Like,
Hear that a lot. Hear that a lot. Yeah. It's also kind of cool too. Like what he's doing now as far as streamlining the brewer from the distributor to the customer. Yeah. He was doing that with the beer fest, making sure that the brewer or the owner was pouring the beer for the customer. So that direct contact, we don't got the distributor's not no middleman anymore. You can actually feel and touch and talk to the guy or woman who made your beer. It's kind of in the same vein of what your company is doing now.
So this was, I'm holding a poster I just pulled off my wall from the second ever Juicy Brews Festival in New York City. And we had, you might recognize some of these names. This was December 2017. We had Aslan, Austin Street, Bearded Iris, Burley Oak, Civil Society, Crime and Punishment, Dancing Gnome, Equilibrium, Foam, Foundation, Hudson Valley, LIC Beer Project, Magnify, Melvin, Sand City, The Answer, and Triple Crossing. And so now a lot of these are like breweries people who are into beer know, but a lot of them were just getting started. We were just getting started, and so we all kind of came up at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and even the better thing, since that was 2007, you said 2017?
Yeah.
The fact that I think if not all, the majority of them are actually still open and still functioning after COVID. So that's actually pretty great as well.
Right. Yeah, a lot of them have multiple tap rooms now. And but I gotta say, man, I was driving over the Williamsburg Bridge in a rented like U-Haul, and everyone was honking at me, and I thought it was because I was going too slow, because I had to drive all this equipment into New York, and it was one of those big U-Haul trucks with the roll-up back, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then when I parked, I realized it was because the back of the truck was wide open, and there were kegs sitting on the edge. I was going over the Williams.
Like, bro, he like,
I'm going as fast as I can go.
One of those things would have killed someone. That was
oh my gosh.
Good thing you wasn't going too fast though. So you felt you were going slow. Good thing.
So that was why I threw 52 beer festivals, is because at the time it was the way. Well, it started out as a way to support the business, so we could keep the magazine running. And then at some point, it kind of developed a life of its own. And then at some point, too, the magazine, digital, we call it magazine, but we never published in print. It's all free online. That developed. Then we got the audience at some point that we could start selling advertising to, and we started doing merch. And then the fourth piece of the puzzle was, we had thrown a festival in Pittsburgh, and I got a phone call, or it was an email actually, a week later, from this dude, and he said he worked for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and he had been at our festival and had just had an absolute blast, and asked us if we would consult for the Pro Football Hall of Fame on a beer festival.
Nice.
And so that's how I ended up throwing the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Craft Beer Festival in Ohio. That was a big one. That was like 3,000 people. We had one brewery from every NFL market. Tripping Animals was our Miami brewery, cheating a little.
Close enough.
Yeah.
So was it straight just 32 breweries, or were there more than the 32?
There were more than the 32. I think there were 50. We got 18 from Ohio, just like to support the local brewing scene. And then we had, the others one from each NFL market.
That's nice.
Now, do you guys still do beer festivals or no?
No, COVID really put a stop to that.
Okay.
So yeah, we did. I've done 3 digital festivals where like we send you a box of 12 beers to your house, and then we do a whole day of like stuff like this, where we do tastings, and sometimes we'll have brewers talk or give us a tour of the brewery. We did that during COVID. It's a blast. It was super fun putting together, but it's just not the same.
Right. Yeah.
So we're taking a little break and hopefully getting back to in-person stuff maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right. But you've also sponsored Beer Fest as well, correct?
As Hop Culture?
Yeah. Or it has just been just Hop Culture is when is it always called Juicy Brews, or is it always called
Yeah. So we've done a couple different iterations. The majority are called Juicy Brews. We did a Halloween themed one in Boston called Spooky Brews. And then Grace, actually, who I mentioned earlier, the managing editor, partnership or head of sales turned managing editor. She was graduating from NYU, and we went down to see her give her thesis presentation. And it was about a whole week of events in New York City, all focused on women in the beer industry. And she finished that presentation, and I was like, that was awesome. Like, do you want to like do that? And she's like, yeah, that's why I wrote an entire grad school. And so we did that. That was in 2018. We had our first Beers Without Beards festival. And it
Beers Without Beards.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking about. So that is actually still part of. It's not a sponsorship. You're actually still part of.
Yeah, that's us.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
That's that yellow poster behind me. Yeah, so that was that festival, and it was the same concept, right? We wanted to connect drinkers with the people that made the beer, except with this one, we were specifically focused on female-owned or female brewers. And so we've done that 6 years now, I think. And then last year, Grace is queer, and she said to me, as a queer woman in the beer industry, I think it's been really cool to create a space where women feel like they belong in the beer industry. I think we've done really good work there, and we're seeing more people interested, and that push toward inclusivity in craft beer, I think is a strong one and a really good one. And she said, I would love to do this for kind of this other, like, we've seen the effect that this event has had. I want to do this now for queer brewers and queer-owned breweries. And so last year we did queer beer in DC, and that was awesome. That was a party. That was cool. Right. So
it's still under the whole umbrella of
it's all
hop culture. All right. So because I thought I saw hop culture and these beer fest, but now it makes sense that they're still all sort of the same. Same house. They're all in the same house. It's not an outside entities. It's still all family. Gotcha.
It's a lot. It's not like what Day is doing, I think, which is so cool, right? It's like part networking event, part party, part just allowing people to connect. I think that's a beautiful thing. So
yeah, definitely.
Right. Before we get out here, I do want, because I am curious to know, you being a fiction writer, because I'm not I do read, but I am curious to know what the Castle of 1,000 Doors is all about.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about a Castle of 1,000 Doors. So like I said, I've always wanted to be a fiction writer, and let's see, I'm 32 now, so I feel like at 22, maybe a decade ago, it wasn't so reasonable, but I've spent the last 10 years just practicing and doing it. And
does a fiction writer have to hone their skills? Is there like a level that you have to cross?
Yeah, I think there's a honing process for sure. You got to find your voice, right? Just like any artist, right? You got to find your voice. It's funny when you think about it, because a lot of musicians and they're better maybe when they're younger. Like most of the musicians you see, that schedule maybe requires you traveling around. Like most of the musicians I can think of, maybe it's because I'm in my 30s, but they're like the famous ones right now are in their 20s, 30s maybe. I feel like most musicians get famous when they're young and then ride that out, through to old age. Whereas I think most of the writers I know are all older. And I don't know if it's a practice thing, Lou, or like an experience thing. Maybe you just have to have gone through some shit, so you got something to say.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe it's just the process of like just growing, and now you're like, all right, I'm ready. Here we go.
Go ahead.
I think to make a song and to sit down and write a novel is like something Maybe the attention span is just you just have more of an attention span.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Like most of the famous musicians we know, we've known them since they were like in their 20s, in their teens.
Except for Bill Withers, he started when he was 40 or something like that.
Yeah, but like he is so rare.
Yeah, that's rare. Yeah, that's what
how many? Like I never even thought about that. Like how many movie stars or musicians got their start in their mid to late 30s or older? Right. It usually doesn't happen. But the writers. It's a 70-year-old writer right here.
I think Morgan Freeman was 100 years old when he got started.
When he was 17. But Morgan Freeman was 87 when he was 17. So that's
actually he started on the Electric Company. I just watched the clip of the episode.
He started there. That was his first. That was
like one of his big things, and he's still kind of.
He was old then.
Yeah, it's a picture of him when he's like in high school. A high school picture. He's like, yo, he looked like he about 31 right now. He look older than Ken did right now.
Right. Well, that threw off what the book was about. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, that's funny. So, yeah, this book is about. So it's fiction. It's fantasy fiction, and it's about an athlete. He's a famous athlete, living a good life, and then he is accused of treason, and he is sentenced to. A big crime. He lives in a different world, and he's sentenced to something called the Hunt, where instead of just going to prison, he gets thrown into a dungeon, and this dungeon has 10 levels. And if he reaches the bottom, the 10th level, he goes free. But for as long as the hunt has been going on, no one has ever gone free. So it's about him. It's a series, so he doesn't get through all 10 levels in the first book. No, it's not a spoiler, but it's a series, so you probably could have figured that. But yeah, the first one just came out on Tuesday, and it's been crazy. I've moved almost 3,000 copies so far.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
awesome.
Yeah.
Because it has like the maze, the Hunger Games,
right?
Multi-universe.
Sounds like
it's like multi-universe thing.
Multi-universe.
Running Man is going on. Tron is available.
Yeah.
So like you said, it took you 10 years outside of college to get to this point where you can publish your first novel, but it's a series. So how long has this vision been in your head? How long because you said you wanted to do this since you were a child? Like, has this book been in your head that long, or is this something that's come about kind of recently?
So this book has come around recently. This book took around 3 months to write and another 3 months to do. There's like a process of editing and all that. So this book has been around relatively recently, but I mapped out the other day like all the books I want to write, and I got to like 25 and I stopped. And they're all set in the same world, and that world has been building since I was 17 years old when I decided I wanted to be a fiction writer.
Yeah.
So, but I got
is this the world? Is this the universe now? The first book that you got?
Okay. Yeah, it's set there. There's other stories with other characters that are set
in that same world.
Yeah, but like other parts of it. So
wow, that's
now I have so many more questions. So
yeah.
Well, just as an author, because I'm curious, like, how do you sit down and say, you know what, how do you know it's like a trilogy or a series?
Or
like,
that's where to start.
Right. I'm gonna end the book right here. I'm gonna cliffhanger them right here. Like, what the book 2 will start 2 years later. Like, what?
Yeah, this one, there's a cool fiction book, like for people who want to learn to write fiction. There's a cool book, and I can't remember anything from the book, but the title has always stuck with me, and it's called Alone with All That Could Happen. And I think that's a real good way of like potentially, describing fiction, right? Like you're alone and anything could happen. So how do you
that's a good way of describing life. That's
it's like honing your imagination. You gotta hone your imagination.
Or something. But there's another NYU guy, professor who passed away fairly recently, is a writing professor. there and an author named E.L. Doctorow. And he has some quote that I really like, and it's like, writing fiction, I'm going to butcher it, but I think you'll get the gist. It's like writing fiction is like driving down a highway through the fog with only one headlight working, in that you can see just in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way.
Right. Okay.
So you just need to be able to see like what's in front of you, and you get there, and then you see what the next thing is, and you get there. And I think, you know, I know the rough structure. Like I know, because there's 10 levels of this dungeon, that this series is probably going to be, you know, 8 to 10 books, right? Like one per level or so. If I bring it,
let me find out you just wrote the new Harry Potter.
On this show, everybody finds out. That'd be cool.
We can replay this clip. Hey, when he was first dropping that book,
it came out Tuesday. It dropped on Tuesday.
I'll fly you guys out to my Scottish castle, and we can all get beers together.
Man, I can't wait! It's gonna be in Scottish.
Hey, these sound like movie rights is coming too, and I see
video games, a video game too.
Right. It's
10 levels.
What kind of athlete was this your star?
I made up a sport.
Okay. Even more to the Harry Potter.
That's right. I leaned into that. Light ball.
It's called light ball.
Light ball.
Light ball.
Okay.
Yeah. Light ball, like LIT, or
I don't want to ask how you play light ball.
Yeah, I'm gonna read the book.
I gotta read it. Yeah,
I have a question. I don't read.
Is it on audio?
I was about to say I'm not a read. Yeah, that's my question too. Who's the voiceover guy for this? Do you need one? Would you like one?
Expensive. Yeah, you know one. Who you got?
Rob,
Lewis, Rob.
You do audio? Like
yeah, of course we do.
Everybody always say Rob should do audio, but
and look,
I want to do voiceovers,
but I don't have a voice for it. People say I don't have a voice for anything. So
it's like between $500 and $1,000 per recorded hour of audio.
Oh, we're booked. Book, Kenny. We're booked.
No,
I'm saying it's wicked expensive to make an audio.
Absolutely. And I need the audio book so bad. I feel like that should be a part of the deal. Like you make one in print or on digital, and you do the voiceover. That's
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Shit.
Yeah, well, it's 10,000 words roughly for an hour, and the book's 80,000 words. So it's between and that's before you finish it. Then you got to hire an engineer.
Right. Yeah.
So it's between like $5,000 and $12,000 to do an audiobook. Which
and
it's like a lot of money to just shut
up.
up.
Is
it
it's a whole lot of money?
Because now my question, like, I don't know if you have the answer or not, but like, is that worth it? Like, is it like, do a lot of people listen to books more than they read them?
Here's one thing, and I need everybody listening to buy a copy of this book, so then I can afford to start an audiobook.
You're absolutely right. There you go.
Hire Rob to be
the Castle of the
protagonist.
On Amazon.
There you go.
Kenny
Everybody
Gould.
listening, going on there. Go on there and get that book.
I'd love to do an audiobook, but it's just expensive. I will.
Yeah.
I will do it. I think they say that the best way to promote your book is to write a second book. And I think once we get people invested in the series and really get some readers, I think it'll become a lot more viable for me to do an audiobook. But
now, were you a short story guy too? Did you do a lot of did you write a lot on short stories or no?
I was never really a short story guy.
Huh.
I was like, I can do articles and I can do novels.
Not in the middle. No, not the middleman.
Yeah.
You're always taking the middleman out.
You have to have a lot of, it's weird. It's counterintuitive. I think you have to have more patience for a short story than for a novel.
I would think so too, because it's a lot like that you got to put in that short story. You have to shrink it down to that little bit of time.
I'm not that patient.
I want to go back down to young Kenny in the fiction realm. What books were you reading back then that sparked your interest in this genre?
Oh,
you said you were 17 when you decided you wanted to be a fiction writer. What book did you put down that start there? What book did you put down that day and was like, you know what, God damn it, I'm writing books?
It was The Golden Compass. I don't know if you ever read that. I really like that. They made a
Seen the
terrible
movie. Isn't that a movie? Yeah. Seen
I
the
think
movie.
it's a terrible movie. But I really liked that book. I read that. The Phantom Tollbooth. You ever read that as a kid?
Phantom Tollbooth. No, I never heard of that.
I have that on my shelf right here. I really liked that. You know, my best friend from middle school saw that the book came out, and I haven't heard from him in a couple of years, but he texted me the other day and was like, man, I remember in middle school you wanted to be a writer.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't remember that, but that'd be cool. Like if it went back that far. 17 is when I can remember being like, I'm actually going to do it. That was when I wrote the first one. But yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
I've been reading a lot. There's a lot of, I think fantasy especially is going through the same movement that like beer is going through, where it's like more people are coming to the table. You know, previously it's just been a lot of old white dudes writing fantasy, and now it's kind of opening up and we're getting different stories that are being told. So one of my favorites, it might be like the best trilogy. All three of them are just lights out. Is by N.K. Jemisin. It's called the Broken Earth trilogy. The first one's called The Fifth Season, and it's just like lights out. It's so good, and everybody thinks so because it won like all the major. Two of the three books won all the major awards. Okay. She almost went 3 for 3, but that's some of the best writing I've read recently. So I checked that out.
All right, that's what's
nice.
Up. Any more questions for the man, the myth, the legend? The man, the myth, the legend now. Kenny
you said you ain't have a lot, man. You like a Renaissance man. I ain't even gonna bring up the fact that you was doing commentating baseball and basketball on the side. And you just threw that in there. Like we can talk about that on a separate podcast.
I like doing that. Yeah.
Of course you did. You like doing everything that you do, Kenny. You do it all.
That's what's up. So we want to thank Kenny G for coming on the podcast.
Kenny G is the man.
Thank you very much. What does he not do?
Right. Before we get out of here, we always like to know how people can find you. Obviously, you want them to find the book as well. Like, how can they find you and everything that you're doing and everything? Because I know you got the www. Websites and all that stuff. So how can they find all about Kenny and what you're doing and all your projects?
I appreciate that. I'm on Instagram at Hop Culture Ken. It's like pop culture, but with an H because it's beer. Hop Culture Ken. And let's see, I got a website, kennygould.com. I got an email newsletter that goes out like every 2 weeks or so, just letting people know what I'm up to. That's a good thing to hop on. And then the book is called The Castle of 1,000 Doors. You'll see a big metal bird on the front. That's how you know it's the right one. It's also by me, Kenny Gould. So check it out. Let me know what you think. It's my first one, so I'm stoked to get it out finally. It's been 15 years in the making. So.
All right, and is it self-published or is the publisher like?
Yeah, I started an imprint. I started a publishing.
I'm gonna do it myself.
No help. All that money's mine.
So I figured I built a company from scratch, and maybe it's definitely. I don't know, maybe overconfident, but I was like, I'm going to advertise my own book better than like someone in some building in New York City is going to.
You're probably right.
So, yeah.
All right.
It's the same. It's the same thing. You was at your beer fest. You want the brewers. You don't want nobody that's hired to pour the beer. You want somebody that knows about the beer. You want somebody that knows about your book that can advertise and market the book. That makes sense.
Right.
But are you doing a book tour?
So I was thinking it'd be real cool to do like a brewery book tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, why not?
Better than beer. And I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of really cool people over the last couple of years. So I think at some point that's in the cards. I might come out with the second one first just so people have a little more to chew on. Okay. But that'll be out this summer. We got the second one. So
wow.
read the first
nice.
You just moving right along with these series. George R.R. Martin can't get 7 out. You about to have 10 out in a year.
That's why he's inspiring me because I don't want to wind up in that situation.
Absolutely not. Do not let somebody buy. Don't let nobody buy the rights. And you don't want him.
You don't want to be like that. Like that was not the end. That is not how it was. Not the
end. That was so trash. Why would you do this? It's trash. Just trash. They had 10 seasons. They had 10 seasons for you. I'm sorry. George makes me mad.
All right, Lou.
My name's Lou Belgium. I'm on them Instagrams. Follow me.
Yo,
you ever notice Lou say Instums?
Yeah. That's a change my name.
You can find me on Instagram.
You be on that Instums too.
At IL302YODA and on Facebook. Same thing.
All right. And you can find Bruising Banter Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Bruising Banter Podcast, even TikTok at Bruising Banter Podcast, even though it's like a desert. It's like a desert over there. Well, man, if you want to follow it,
we'll put some water on it at some point.
Right.
Within the month. You can go by the end of the month.
Yeah.
You can go to www.bruisingbanter.com as well if you want to pick up the merch or follow all the platforms that we're on as well. You can also check this out on YouTube and Facebook. Remember to smash that like button, hit the notification to get notified when you want to follow what we're doing. Rate and review. That's always helpful. Always helpful to rate and review on the podcast. If you want to rate, review, make sure you do that. That helps out the podcast as well. If you want to follow me, Rob G. Rob Stay Bruising. There it is. Bing, 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 bing.
I roll my eyes every time. I can't help it.
Yo, he put the butter.
He did add a little swag,
little spice on it. That's new.
He was typing it faster. He was one finger at first. Bing, bing, bing. Then he said, "You know what? I know how to type."
I'm 80 words a minute.
I don't know what I am now. I used to be pretty good. Now I'm crash. Once again, we want to thank Kenny for coming on for episode 202 of Bruising Banter Podcast.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you, sir.
Remember to go get that book.
Get that book.
Help support his work. And hey, you got 9 more to go. At least 9 more to go. Or you said 8 or 9.
At least 24. He said 25 books. Just a series. Yeah. But he got 24 more books on
like the it's like the universe. So I'm like the Marvel universe. He see the Marvel universe type of thing. He can concoct. So that's what's up.
I like it.
Find out what this light ball's all about.
There it is. It's like he's about to say something else. It just
some light balls.
The name of the game is light ball.
Yeah.
I
thought it was light bulbs. I was like, nah. People know what light bulbs are about.
They've been around a long time.
Longer than all of us.
Until next time, this has been episode 202. Until next time,
have a good week, everyone.
Peace.
Bye. Yeah.
Still going race woman all day long, baby. It's been to the Black Beatles thing.
Yeah, you're right.